Right, so welcome to this hidden video, and it's hidden because it's so frowned upon to actually adjust your own nut on your double bass. It's a little bit, I think it's considered like pulling one of your own teeth out or doing your own appendix operation or something. But I have filed down the grooves in the nut so that the action here, the string height, is manageable. But I've been advised by my lawyers, I'm not going to show you how I did it on this one. I actually practiced first on my Stagg 3/4 upright bass. It's exactly the same principle. So let's move away from my actual double bass and have a look at the Stagg. Right, just to get this into context, this is the nut, and I'm looking at the, well, I call it the action. I don't think you call it on double bass. I think it's string height. And this is supposed to be the distance between the fretboard and the string. Is, they keep saying the universal measurement of bass, of double basses, seems to be the business card. Now I've got a few business cards. They're all completely different thicknesses. So guitarists tend to use thousandths of an inch. Double bass players tend to use business cards. Got no idea why. Let's just zoom in and have a better look at this. Not too far, otherwise it goes out of focus. So let me turn that round and see. You can see under there. So the distance between the E string and the fingerboard is way more than one business card. It's probably about 2 and a bit. The G string, on the other hand, that's tight on that business card and that business. See what I mean? Business cards are not all made equal. So I don't know. I'm just going to gently take it down a little bit more on this side, not too much. These 3 lowest strings are definitely a lot higher than the G string, so a bit nervous about doing this. If all else goes, if it fails, then I'll just get a new nut on. Okay, so what I decided to do is I've taken a business card. I'm not going to tell you which one it is, but it's from a solicitor, so this is obviously a serious business card. This is about the same as underneath the G string, and there's a lot more of a gap underneath the other ones. I've measured it, and actually measured it then against the thing that I used to set up a bass guitar, and it's about 0.022, which I think is thousandth of an inch, or 0.55 millimeters, so just over half a millimeter. And I think that's going to make it slightly bigger than the G string, so I think that's a good starting point. By having something metal, it means that I can put it underneath the string and stop myself from actually filing below where I need to be. But I'm going to do this very cautiously and very careful. And I'm going to keep the old strings on because these are fairly cheap strings. I'm putting my hand, my right hand rather than my left hand, just so you can see. If I press the G note down, I honestly don't know if you can see that. There's not a huge amount of movement there. Now if I switch the bass round, and to be honest, there's not a huge amount of pressure there, but it's definitely not, there's more pressure pressing that down than it is, say, with my second finger there, because this is always the test with a fretted instrument, is it should feel about the same from one fret to the next as it does from the nut to the first fret. So I think that does need to come down a little bit. Hopefully you can see that. So as I say, a business card's worth there, or a standardised lawyer's business card, which is 0.55 of a millimetre we've decided, or I've decided. Okay, I'm just procrastinating now because I don't want to actually start carving into this. Right, so here are some of the tools at my disposal. I've got some tape. I'm going to tape off the fingerboard. I've got a, is this called a micrometer? I can't remember one of these. But anyway, I've measured the thickest string, the E string, and I find these with my eyesight, it's not brilliant. These very difficult to read, but I think that I'm going to do it in millimetres. That's 2.78 millimetres. I've got a 2.5 drill, and I'm going to try a variety of different things. I'm going to wrap some sandpaper around it. This is 400 grit. And what I discovered, I tried to just sort of wrap this round, and it tends to crinkle up. I don't know if people probably know this, but what I've done is if you start to kind of roll it and kind of get the paper to start kind of rolling evenly. Does this make sense? Like rolling a cigarette. I guess I don't roll cigarettes, don't smoke, but then you can actually roll it round quite nicely, and that comes in at a sort of tightish fit to the calipers for that size. I've also got one of these. This is one of those they're cleaners for welding gear, I think, which you can buy very, very cheaply, about £5 I think this was, or you could go to go onto eBay and or to Amazon, and you can pay about 20 quid for one of these, pretending to be a specialist guitar tool. That's slightly small for this size. And I've got some needle files, which with this one it's only down to about there. That's the right size. So I'm procrastinating again, so I'm going to need a lot of different techniques, but I'm going to start on the E string first. I'm hoping that's going to be the easier one, and see what happens. Oh, these tuners are really cheap and dodgy. Yeah, all I need to do is to get that out of the way. Put that back on for a second. Right. That's obviously not going to protect it if I go through. It just feels so unnatural to be doing this. This little device. Right, on the basis of doing as little as I can at a time, let's pop that back on and see if it's... Oh, I've got loads to go yet. I've hardly taken any off at all. It feels like you're cutting a ton off, but that really wasn't very much at all. Well, this is the key thing. So I'm plucking the E string quite hard and it's not buzzing. And that's quite easy to hold down, so I'm going to stop at that. Yeah, that's a loose fit. That's not a tight fit. So that's a solicitor's, lawyer's size business card, and it's certainly not a tight fit. Whereas on the A string, which I'm probably not going to adjust, it is a tight fit. So there we go, right. Apologies for this, but I'm going to get the camera out of my face now. I'm going to do these two, and then we'll have a look and see if that's actually made any difference. Right, so I've done the A string. I can actually get this quite easy with a little bit of slack under both of these two strings. This one was actually higher, there was more to cut off than there was on the E string. So that has made a big difference. For the time being, that's okay. I'm going to cut into this string, the D string. I'm going to leave the G string where it is because, as I say, that is lower than a business card's width. But it's funny. I expected this to be the biggest one, the fourth string followed by this, but that was actually a lot higher. So now I'm going to do the D string, and that's it. So cross fingers and leave the G alone. Right, so it's difficult for me to tell because I'm very much a beginner, but I left the G string alone. D string feels a lot lighter, a lot easier. Oh, A string very much so, because that's the B flat there, and I know B flat is a note that comes up an awful lot. Don't know why. And that, even that C is. I can press that down with my little finger because one of the, see, my thumb is actually off and on that B flat. Because one of the things I've heard is that it's the weight of the hand rather than squeezing the fingers. You shouldn't be squeezing your thumb. And even with that, if that's a lot, that's significantly easy to play, and there's no buzz. Gosh, that's made a huge difference. And I could have even been braver. But I'm plucking that as hard as I can. There you go. That was easy. Could have gone horribly wrong there, couldn't it?